Dear all, do you all want to become a successful entrepreneur or a business executive? Then you know that the key requirement and key requisite will be communication and listening skills. An attempt is made in this e-tutorial to nurture the requirements for both communication and listening and thereby improving yourself as an active listener. Coming to introduction of communication. Communication may be either verbal or non-verbal. Myself, I'm communicating to you in form of words, jargons, slang. So it is quite verbal in nature. For that, I'm using a mode of language, universal language, English. So communication, when it's to be in verbal, it needs language as a base. Whereas you can also go for non-verbal communication where you can use your expressions, facial composure, eye contact, gestures, postures to communicate the message. Nowadays, in presentations and forum, people adapt both verbal and non-verbal communication so that the communication is quite effective and you can easily capture the attentiveness of the listener throughout the session. Now, let us see how the communication process is carried out. It's very simple. We have learned already in various subjects like organization behavior. Communication starts from source or sender and ends with the destination or receiver. Source. Now I am sitting in my home and I am just encoding some ideas into and converting into messages and sending you through this mobile communication. So this is an example for communication. And you are sitting at your home and decoding based on your skills and you are receiving the messages as I have communicated to you. So when there is a match between my encoding process and your decoding process, then you can say that the communication is succeeded and the fruitful decisions can be maintained. So source or receiver is nothing but source or sender is nothing but a person who communicates an idea, whereas encode is nothing but how he attractively converts the idea into message so that he can easily capture the people's attention, nothing but receiver's attention. Channel is a mode through which you communicate things. When we are in classroom, we use air medium as a channel, or sometimes we use microphones as a channel, and you could go for either analog or digital mode. And now we are using digital technology as a channel with the help of the mobile commerce. And we have various noise and distortions. While I was transferring this message, I can hear the sounds of many birds, I can hear the barking noise of the dogs, and many traffic signals and traffic disturbances too. Apart from all this noise and distortions, I am communicating my message to you, and it is your responsibility to just filter all those unwanted noise and distortions and extract the needed through your decoding skills. And finally, you may get a good knowledge as I need you to hear, and then you can react and think and react with a response by giving a positive or negative feedback based on the presentation. This is the communication process. We know that while communicate something to others from one to one or one to many or within many to many forums, we may face various barriers. And the first and foremost barrier is process barriers. Process barriers is because of sender, the encoding process, the poor quality of the channel, decoding process, receiver's ability, or your response and feedback mechanisms, and still many more. So these things comes under process barriers. Physical barriers are mainly due to the interventions and interruptions you have. So you can see in our classrooms, while we are handling classes, either a staff or student come, excuse me, I need this particular person. Okay, so I want to communicate this message to others. So one way or other way, they disturb our sections. And even though we have physical barriers, we need to overcome and have our communication flow. Then semantic barriers. Semantic barriers is nothing but when people are not able to understand your pronunciations of your words. The high-tech jargons, acronyms, abbreviations, and the technological terms, key terms you're using, the way the slang you communicate, and these acts as a semantic barriers. And psychosocial barriers, it includes both psychological and social part. So there may be a common mode of language. You take our class, we are all highly adapted with Tamil rather than English. And in sometimes you cannot say that we are purely adapted with Tamil. We are with tongue English. We use both bilateral language. And if I fail to use the bilateral language and keep on communicating either in Tamil or English, people cannot accept that. So that may psychologically affect them, or they may not allow them to listen. So that may reduce their sincerity. The empathy is lost, and they won't give any actual feedbacks, and those things act as their psychological barriers. So hence, process barriers, physical barriers, semantic barriers, psychosocial barriers. Amongst that, it's the responsibility of the sender to overcome all these things and create attention in the minds of the receiver. And coming to the types of communication. So communication is of three folds: communicative expressions, communication flow, communication based on relationship. So we all know that it is verbal or non-verbal in case of expressions. So the verbal can be either written or oral. So now I'm giving oral communication. If I'm using any digital boards in the classrooms and chalk and board, it becomes a written communication. Uh, and if it is based on expressions, when you may see various dumb charrot programs, they create some expressions and make the listener to communicate verbally. So there comes in gestures, and these are the expression part. And coming to communication flow, the communication flows within the organization, that is internal, or outside the organization or outside the group, that becomes external. Now I'm communicating within my class alone, so it is internal. When I share the same audio to B and C, that becomes external. And you can see there is a vertical and horizontal communications in an internal organization. That is, I communicate this matter to third year, second year, first year, and goes on vertically. I communicate the same matter third year, third B, third C. It becomes horizontal. So external, we can take examples for communicating to through YouTube channels, through another neighboring colleges too. And coming to relationships, we have two set of environments: formal versus informal. So formal environment is based on organization structure, protocols based on duties and responsibilities, and we have a separate language based on code of conduct. So you cannot take unwanted advantages on people. You cannot bluff. You cannot chit and chat. So you have what to say, a structured mechanism to be followed in formal relationships, whereas in informal relationships you can adapt any methods. Okay, so it is for example, a best example is your social network sites, and our classroom teaching is the best example for formal relationships. So these things has to be adhered before going to initiate your communicating process, or before going to develop your ideas into message. And now it's our role to understand that communication is of four elements: listening, speaking, reading, writing. And in that, the first and foremost element is listening. So to make the listening attractive, what can we do? So here are some tips highlighted to you, and the techniques that you're going to adapt to capture the attention value of the receivers and avoid unwanted barriers. First, it's your responsibility to face the speaker with a good eye contact and good body language. Your verbal and non-verbal communication throughout the program is required. Next, as I said already, when you are just facing the speaker with confidence, your eye contact is on them, so that the people are quite comfortable with you. They won't get distracted. Then avoid unwanted external distractions. Try to have your presentation in a closed cabin so that external distractions can be avoided. Then restating. So restating is very essential because people have low memory power. So keep on reminding them the frequently important terms. So remind them again and again. After the end of the section, give a sum up so that they will have a clear cut idea. When you come for the next day, make them remembering that what are things we already discussed, so that the restating skills of the people can be enhanced. Then focus solely on what the speaker is saying. Okay, so it is a responsibility now from the side of the receivers to have attention on the speaker so that they doesn't get distracted. So for active listening is needed for both sender as well as receiver. Minimize internal distractions. It is once again for the receiver. He has to concentrate only on the session and the speaker and should not get diverted. We can see many people while you're handling classes working with laptops or projects, writing unwanted homeworks. They're not ready to listen. They're not ready to make good eye contacts, and these distractions has to be overcome. Then keep an open mind, both the sender and the receiver, so that it becomes interactive and real two-way communication process can be achieved. Validation. So whenever you see you are going to speak something, you're speaking only for the audience. So ensure that people have understood that. So you can just ask some questions and you can just restrict your answers within the syllabi and you can appreciate them so that the forum gets quite a friendly atmosphere so that the real requirement can be given. Avoid letting the speaker know how you handle their similar situations. That is very, very essential. Unless they specifically ask for advice, assume they just need to talk it out. Then, even the speaker is launching a complaint against you, wait until they finish to defend yourself. So, this is not going to be an argumenting part, it should be a discussive part. Engage yourself throughout the section, either the sender or the receiver. Okay, now the last part, the important part, how to develop the communication in par with the listening skills. First, focus is only on audience. You see that my audience is third BBA regular, so my focus is only on the audience. I'm not going to focus on any other majors or any other field of peoples. Practice active listening. So after I have just going to just deliver this to you, I may get some feedbacks. It may be either positive or negative, and it's my responsibility to clarify all those things. So I should listen to all those things also. Make your message as clear as possible. My encoding process should definitely match the receiver's decoding process, and then use the right medium or platform. Since we are in short of time, since we have examination within 1 or 2 days, I think I cannot communicate all these things in the classroom. Hence, I have used this ICT tool. Come on, let us adapt these tips and succeed in the realm and be a successful entrepreneur or business executive. Will you? Thank you.